Our first paddle on the James River was about a simple commitment: to travel 250 miles from the Headwaters in the Blue Ridge Mountains to our home in Richmond, Virginia, filming and documenting an ancient river as it runs today. But the story of the James River doesn't end in Richmond. It changes.
There they are again. There they are again. Headwaters down, filmmakers. There you go. 2 of the 5, and the best looking of the 5, I got to say.
Appreciate that. That.
So it's so great to get back in touch with you guys, because you went down the river again with the lower part. So let's start off. Can you explain your first film and why and where it was?
You don't have to climb Mount Everest to find the indomitable spirit within yourself. You can find it in your own backyard. The James River of Central Virginia runs through our backyard.
Sure. Yeah. Well, first of all, thanks for having us back on, Kevin. Yeah, it's great to be back. It's funny because it has been a few years since it took us a couple years to make another film. So, but yeah, our first film that started our careers and really seriously got us hooked on canoeing was we paddled the first 2 sections of the James River, which are the upper and middle James. It was a 250-mile paddle. It took us 13 days as we were doing a lot of filming as well. And this was like 2021, I think we took that trip.
Yep.
And we didn't even know that we were making a full-length film at that time. We just wanted to get on the water and film everything we could and highlight some of the things we had researched, But yeah, basically we ended up having this fantastic journey, and we had a couple things go wrong at good times, which made for a better film.
We just got being threatened with a gun.
And yeah, we poured our heart and soul into it, and luckily made something that enough people wanted to watch to where we decided to keep going.
Yeah, and then you did the title. Now, before we get into that, I got asked, did those guys that harass you on the island campsite, did they ever find you?
We just got being threatened with a gun.
No, and we get asked that a lot. People are curious, like, hey, we ever gotten tracked down? Did we get beat up in a dark alley or something because these guys found us? But no, knock on wood, we have not been located or contacted by that group, and hopefully they're too ashamed of their actions to do anything. But
it is funny. I was out last weekend and recorded. I was on this big lake, and these 2 people on stand-ups were paddling across this massive lake with a barge of gear, like a dinghy full of gear. And I filmed it. I went, what? Why? And of course I put it out, and sure enough, hey, I saw myself in one of your videos, and you shouldn't be making fun of you. I wasn't really making fun of you. I was quite concerned about you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So no, it was a really good film. We're going back at least a year and a half, 2 years ago that you did that film, and you went on tour with it. It was fantastic. And well, introduce yourself. First of all, Will, I thought you got a haircut, but no, it's still there.
It's still there.
And you're the narrator of the film.
That's right. Yep. Yeah, I'm the narrator. Me, Justin, and Diedrich. Diedrich couldn't make it, but me, Justin, and Diedrich are the 3 filmmakers of the 5 who do the trip. So we're the ones actually making the film, crafting the story, that kind of stuff. But yeah, my role, I do narration. We all kind of film. Justin does music, but I'll let him talk a little bit about what he does.
Yeah. My main contribution, other than just filming and being on the trip, is doing the soundtrack. So the soundtracks to all of our films, including our short films and stuff, we like to do custom music, and usually it's me and my brother that get in the studio and make some stuff sort of to fit whatever the film is that we're working on.
A place of hope and despair, of disaster and recovery. Everything about this type of river was new to us.
Just got pretty choppy here.
The struggles,
Storm gathers behind me, barreling down the James.
They want to call the Coast Guard. I don't think we're there yet.
The triumphs
Is this all you got?
and the beauty of a tidal river.
Yeah, it really does. It really does fit. If I had to compare the two, I'm getting right into these questions, but compare the two, it's almost like a maturity, because it's more historic, more about the environment. Well, the other one was as well, but less misadventure. Still lots of misadventure in the tidal flats for sure. A change, all of a sudden, boom, you're into a kayak. You're separated. Yeah, and Justin, better sunglasses than all the others.
Yeah.
I've really done anything quite like this.
I lost those, but yeah.
Oh, did you really? But yeah,
I
so
can't.
did you go into the second film wanting to change what you did in the first, or did you want to replicate the first?
Well, I think there were a few factors. One, the first film, we didn't really know we were making a film, like that it was going to be a feature. We thought it might just be a YouTube thing. So we were just kind of filming, and we decided at the end we didn't have any budget whatsoever. So we were like, we're not going back out to film more footage. Like we're just going to use whatever we filmed on the trip to make the film. Whereas the second film, we did some crowdfunding and we also got a grant. And so we had a little more play in terms of being like, oh, maybe we should ride down, the road and film this or film that. And that would kind of help elevate the production value because we really couldn't count on everything going wrong at the right moment, which is what happened in the first film. So we were like, well, let's just fill that in with some like unexpected history, unexpected sort of environmental knowledge and moments. And we were just calling them like vignettes. So we were like, as we go down the river, we'll just break out into these little vignettes that are kind of mini scenes or documentaries about little things as we go.
The next 110 miles make up the most historic waterway in America.
When you talk about Jamestown Island, you're talking about a complex history that goes back 10,000 years.
Seas are rising, land is sinking.
The story is not a good one. It never is for Native people of the Americas.
We just want to tell the whole story, not out to rewrite history, just to retell it. That's all.
And so that was kind of what our approach was to the second film. And yeah, I think that it's a different approach. And I think, going forward, we're like, we want to use the best parts of both types of filmmaking to, tell more stories. So
to me, it played like a book, or to me, it was even like listening to audiobook, but with the music, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, the history is fantastic. The river itself is full of history, as you said in the film. What was your best part, the upper or the lower? I mean, looking at both films together, I watched both. I watched the old one this morning too to look at it again. But yeah, totally different films, by the way.
Totally different. Yeah, different films, different parts of the river. Yeah, I mean, all of us love the upper mountainous sections the most, I mean, if we have to choose between a canoe or kayak, we're going to choose a canoe every day. And the upper part of the James it's truly gorgeous. I mean, honestly, I think by anyone's standards. I mean, you have these untouched mountain views, you have narrow, windy river, you have a nice pace to the current, but no rapids that are too extreme. It's a lot of class 1, class 2, you get the occasional class 3, but it's just an awesome river to canoe. And that's what we all love the most. The tidal section was more of a test and an exploration and honestly just like a dedication to finishing the river. It's like, hey, we did the first 250 miles. There's 110, 120 miles left that are going to be way different and more difficult in a way. And, let's do it. Let's try to tell that story and let's see what sea kayaks are all about.
Yeah, you look at the history. First of all, we'll get into the history of the river itself with the Civil War and also the First Nations. That was incredible stuff. But also, you said that it was the most polluted river stretch or stretch of river in America 50 years ago.
Yeah.
Is it now still?
I don't think it's I don't think it's yeah, I don't think it still is. There's been a lot of work done. Specifically, we mentioned by the James River Association to help clean up the river. But I mean, as we say in the documentary, like places like Hopewell, there's still a lot of industrial pollution, and beyond the legal limits. Like they're legally allowed to pollute a lot, and they exceed that, and they just get the violations and pay the fines. And actually, this December is marking the 50th year anniversary of that moratorium that closed the river for 13 years to recreational and commercial fishing. So people, I think nowadays people still think of the lower James and the seafood that comes from it as being tainted. And it's just like this, it's become sort of a legacy of industrial pollution. And then we didn't even really get into it, but towards the mouth of the James, there's just an insane amount of military industrial sites and places. We weren't really able to film that with the drone because the military doesn't like for you to fly the drone over. So we didn't have a ton of footage of that. And it also seemed like almost a topic that was too big to even get into at that point. But, it's interesting. It's a super interesting stretch of river. You'd be surprised. I mean, we saw one other paddler out there. Like, and they weren't, a through paddler. They were just like someone who was paddling out one day, like near their dock. So it's remarkably lonely out there for how much industry and how many people actually live around it.
Wow, that's incredible. That explains a lot watching the film. Oh, by the way, Will, I forgot. This is Whiskey Fireside Chat. I just saw that you had some. It looks like it's bourbon. I do have some bourbon.
Oh yeah. This is actually some Basil Hayden dark rye.
Oh, well, I thought I should have some bourbon because we don't have bourbon now in Canada. So I went
I was like, it's 3 o'clock, but we got to go for it.
I went to the basement, blew off the dust.
Yeah.
But yeah, was there a time on that stretch because it was so wide and so expansive that you're like, can we just get this done? There was points where like, it was almost maybe because you were in kayaks separate and you weren't in a canoe together or you weren't doing a sort of a river journey. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it, honestly, we totally underestimated how difficult it was going to be to make progress on this tidal section. Like, we thought that if the current was with us, because it ebbs and flows. Sometimes it's going out, sometimes it's coming in. But we thought, hey, if it's going out, it should just be like a normal river, right? And for whatever reason, we found that just wasn't the case. Like the current was nowhere near, it just didn't pull you along in the same way as a true kind of free-flowing mountain river. And the wind just always seemed to be against us. So even when the tides were technically with us, it was like the water was blowing the opposite direction. So no, it was so much harder than we thought. And we loaded and stuffed our sea kayaks like absolutely to the gills. I mean, like 4 people could barely lift one of these things up at the beginning of the trip. They were so heavy with film gear and all. Like we're used to canoes, we like it was a learning experience. So, oh man, yeah, we're just paddling these like they might as well have been concrete sea kayaks. Like it was so hard to go forward. And so like yeah, we were like, oh, it's going to be great. Like, we've got this plotted out. We're going to do like 8 to 10 miles a day. It'll be a breeze. We're going to have all this time to film. And man, it was just, we were on the water all day fighting the wind and the current, and we were exhausted. So yes, we were looking forward to the end. Like literally from the first day, we were like, wow, this is going to be a long trip.
What about campsites? Did you just find any place to pitch or?
No, we literally had to have every single campsite planned because there's really no like public. Well, we reserved a couple like through public sites, and they were even surprised. They were like, "What do you mean? Oh, I guess we do reserve campsites, you know?" But it would be like we'd pull up to a spot, and they'd be like, "What do you mean? Like you have a campsite reserved?" But we'd like show them, and they'd be like, "Oh, I guess you can like use this pavilion." But I mean, so many spots are either wildlife refuges, private property, or just like industrial areas where you don't really want to be. It doesn't have like a bunch of islands or beaches. So it was tricky. And, you know, a lot of people that have reached out to us since have that want to do that section. That's one of the hardest parts is figuring out where you're going to camp each night and getting the permission to do it. We were a little bit lucky because we had the excuse of making a film. So some people, you know, traded us. We would trade them some footage, you know, or we'd give them some photos, or they liked the first film and they knew that we weren't going to wreck the place or something. But it was tricky getting all those campsites figured out.
It's funny when I was watching the interview that we did about your first film, and you mentioned that you were going to conclude it with the title, but you hadn't done that yet, and you're working on it. Then I went to watch it. Before I watched it, I thought, oh, this is just a conclusion of what they did. They just had to get it done because they said they were going to get it done.
Right.
That was not at all the film I watched.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was more polished. Not to say, actually, I loved the first film. It was more polished, more historic, lots of information, something more documentary style. But man, Will, your voiceover is so captivating. Like, I don't smoke marijuana, but if I did, I'd be watching like.
Hey, you can start anytime, you know, and just let me talk you to sleep every night. Yeah.
That's funny.
Do you have training with that, or I know you're both artists.
It's smoking marijuana.
Yeah,
we have a lot of practice. Yeah.
Yeah. No, thank you for the compliment. I appreciate that. It's funny, I did actually get some formal training, but after we made those films. So I was like, oh, I enjoy this. I've gotten some good feedback. So I went and took a class, a professional voice acting class. And ironically, I haven't done any voice acting since then. So all the voice work I've done has been before my professional training. But yeah, no, it's just something I like. And we all tested our voices at the beginning, and just went with mine. Also because I'm writing the kind of voiceover script, so it's much easier to know how to say things and kind of where to hold the emotion in your voice when you're the one who's also writing it.
well, you look at all five characters, and like again, the first film, you get to know those characters, and they do blend in really well. Like Justin, like your music is amazing, but you're also in the camera quite a bit, right? And then you have the naturalists once again, which I really enjoyed. Cypress trees. I knew nothing about cypress trees. Now I know everything.
Yeah.
And you also have, the sort of the connection, but also the separation with the group, right? You all get along, but you all have your own little element of the film.
Yeah.
Whose idea was it to talk about the history of the Civil War, or was it just everybody wanted to put that in?
I'm not sure. It might have been Justin's idea. I can't remember.
I think, yeah, I mean, I think that when I was researching campsites and I was like looking at different places, I saw Fort Pocahontas and I was like, okay, that looks like, you know, that's in the mileage that we're looking for. That's an interesting area. Did a little research and I'm like, oh, this is actually there's a little foundation, there's a little house museum. And so we were like, well, they have this beach there. We're like, this might be a good place for us to camp. And then we looked in and we were like, whoa, they're actually having this reenactment like in a few weeks. Maybe we could go film it and it would be an interesting element to have in the film, but we could also trade them the footage for having it be a resupply location and allowing us to camp there. But yeah, and the reason why, you know, we didn't want to tell like a more known, and we didn't want to tell like a Civil War story that was I don't know, expected from the South or something like that. And this is a really interesting story because it's the first battle in Virginia that was won by the United States colored troops, a predominantly black troop uh, that was fighting for the Union or the United States. And so it's a lesser known history here in the South. And growing up in Virginia, you just don't hear that perspective of the Civil War as much in schools, which is surprising to me even to this day. And who knows what's going what's going to happen next. I have no idea. But the interesting thing was, wow, this is a very interesting story happening on this section of river that we're on. It lines up with a place for us to camp, and they were down. So it turned into this really great, kind of mutually beneficial thing. And I also think it's a really interesting moment, unexpected sort of movie moment that happens on a kayaking trip. You don't expect to have again like a 6 to 8 minute vignette that like goes into some Civil War history on a sea kayak journey.
And that's why it's not, like you said, not just a YouTube video. I'm not knocking YouTube videos. I watch it all the time, whatever. But it was a story because you created a story. And I think it's amazing when adventurers like you guys go out, you think you're going to get something, but you get more because you meet these people. And yes, wilderness is fantastic. The mountains are fantastic. And wilderness zeal is fantastic. But then you meet the people along the river, along your journey, and that sews it all together. And you really did do. How'd you meet the First Nation guy? Was he just there at the camp as well?
So yeah, he was when I was researching Jamestown. We were here. Everybody knows the John Smith story here on the James River, and we were like, let's not tell that story because people. It's like John Smith, John Rolfe, Pocahontas. It's like this whole overtold, in my opinion, history when there's so many other cool things that happen in this area. And so when we were looking at Jamestown, we were like, okay, we all grew up going to Jamestown on field trips, and we heard that story. But come to find out, and as we say in the film, they've kind of changed the way that they are interpreting the history there. Part of it is due to the archaeology, but part of it is due to historic interpreters like Daniel Firehawk, who you're mentioning. And when I was looking up things that we could possibly film, and I talked to the archaeologists at Jamestown and some other people, I saw that Daniel Firehawk did his talk on Fridays and Saturdays, and it worked out that we were going to be there on a Friday or a Saturday. And so I reached out to him. I had to like track down his number and I called him. And at first he was like, no, I don't allow people to film me. You could do some audio if you want, but I don't really like that. And I was like, okay, well, we're going to be paddling up on sea kayaks. And he's like, wait, you guys are paddlers? And I was like, yeah. He's like, oh man, what are you guys paddling? And I was like, we're going to be in sea kayaks. And he's like, oh, I got a Necky. He started telling me about his boat. And he's like, you know what? Bring the cameras. And so we kind of got this exclusive footage with Daniel Firehawk because he's a paddler himself. And so it kind of, again, worked out that we were just paddling in this sort of one of the days that he was going to be giving his talk. And he let us crash it with a couple cameras. And I think it turned out to be another great kind of unexpected perspective, but also an important perspective for that section of river.
Well, hats off to you because basically I've dealt with that throughout my career with people, but also First Nations people. You walk the talk. You respected him, he respected you, and you just didn't walk into his domain, saying, "Hey, this is what we're going to do." You actually kayaked in and connected to them. That's fantastic. Well, I'm going to watch the film again. You said some great quotes, Will. Like I go on too much about it, but I really love your voice. But the one quote that is fantastic. But if there is therapy in paddling, then there is group therapy in camping. You say that near the end of the film. And when I was watching this film, my partner Christine just found it really hilarious. I was watching it, and I don't know how many times I put pause. What did he say? What did he say? And I was writing it down because it's so mythical, right? But when you said that there's therapy, do you really think that there's therapy being out there?
I mean, I definitely do. And I think, part of that line was a little bit inspired by some of the things we heard from some of the people we talked to. Like when we talked to Daniel Firehawk, he says he's like paddling is my therapy. Like my time in nature is my therapy. Like it's that deep to him. And when we talked to the Black reenactors, they were like, look, like us learning this history that we never were taught is therapeutic to us. And so I think, there's this way of just like, yes, being in nature, I think you naturally think of it having these therapeutic elements, but also just interfacing with history and people in a real way and just taking things head on, like just confronting the truth, I think is very therapeutic to a lot of people. So, yeah, I mean, this trip, though, I think what I was speaking of is like sharing that entire experience, the experience of being on the water, of camping with your friends, of staying up around the campfire and talking about things that you would never talk about in another situation, or seeing your friend have a deep moment themselves that you're just observing, and realizing, that you're privileged to experience that together and also by yourself. And so that's where I thought, that line of, well, if there's therapy in paddling, as Daniel Firehawk says, and as I think a lot of us who love to paddle experience, there is this group therapy in camping of experiencing things together. And I think, the film, at least the director's cut, the longer version of the film, really comes to that conclusion at the end, which is like, hey, these places are great by yourself, but like, take some people you love out with you, and it'll certainly deepen in your relationship to that place. So yeah, thanks for asking about that.
Yeah, thinking about that too. The original 5 for the first film went on the second one.
That's
So
right.
was that an easy peasy, or as it was you had to convince them to come on, we have to have the same original crew? Because it would be different if you had different people, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'll just say quickly that yeah, it was difficult. I mean, getting people together to go on any kind of vacation is difficult in the modern world. And over the course of what, 12, 14 months, we were asking 5 guys to basically have 3 weeks, 3+ weeks on over 3 weeks on the river together, in these two big chunks. And so it was a big ask, but what you see in the film, I feel like is very authentic, which is the 5 of us have deep love for the river, but a deep love for ourselves. And I mean, we're not, scared to say that. Like, we really love each other. We love our time out there. And so it was a big, I think we all felt the obligation to show up for this, but it took a lot of effort. And Justin's married, Andrew's married now, kids potentially on the way kind of stuff. The older, how it is, life's crazy. Like, people get busy, and, being like, hey, can you jump on the river for 2 weeks can just sound like impossible sometimes. So we're grateful that it happened.
Yeah, it is like when I have a rule for trips. When we set a date, we set the date, and because everybody will try to change the date, and it's like
Yeah, sure.
we'll never go.
We-
We'll
I was
never
gonna
go,
say-
guys.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, we actually did have to delay that trip by like a week or two, like a week out,
Yeah.
because somebody was like, "Oh man, I can't leave that day," and everybody was like, "What do you mean?" Like everybody, and so we actually did delay that trip. And then there's a moment it got cut from the PBS version. It's in the director's cut, but Steven actually leaves like for a night because he had to play a show in Richmond. So he parked his truck at a boat ramp, left us one night, and then met back up with us like the next morning or 2 day or morning after or something.
Yep.
But he was like, I can't cancel the show, but I can't like miss this trip. And so he like made it work. And it is like a funny little section that we have in the director's cut that'll come out eventually. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know how I don't think we could do it again. Like,
Well, there's 5 of you too. That's a lot of people to actually try to get together, right?
Exactly.
And I would say that group dynamics are more difficult than wilderness dangers, right? If I had to go back of all the trips, it was always the people I was with, or the people around me, or the people that actually was associated with it. So,
Well, I think just to finish up on the group therapy thing, camping does bring out like the little things about each other that get under your skin always comes out at the campground. It's like there's always somebody who's got to have the best site and pick first.
Yeah.
There's always somebody who never gathers any firewood.
The late riser.
There's people that don't want to get out of their tent, or who get mad at you when you're trying to wake them up because they slept in an hour late. So it is therapeutic in a way to kind of come to head with those things. And I would say that's kind of group therapy too.
Yeah, it is. We're running out of time, so I want to get some really good points. At the end, two main points I want to go over. I actually looking at my script for once in my life. Coast Guard sends a Morse code, and you say understanding a barred owl is easier.
Yeah. So, well, it was hard to communicate that moment probably in its entirety. But, we had this kind of joke earlier in the film about we run into this barred owl, and the naturalist on the trip starts imitating the barred owl call and kind of calls the owl over, and you kind of hear them talking back and forth. And we kind of make a joke about that communication. But yeah, on the last day, we're crossing the river's like 5 miles wide there. And so we're trying to do this final cross, but we have to cross the industrial shipping lane. And, it's sketchy. You got to follow these huge, 1,000-foot long boats that are coming through, and they're not going to stop for you. Like you really have to, it's one of the most dangerous parts of the trip. It's a part that a lot of people who run the river actually just don't do because it's so dangerous. So, so we wake up that morning, we see some dolphins, which I noticed were on your question. We're like, oh, this is gonna be great. We're just gonna have this peaceful paddle across. It's our final day. Anyway, we get out like half a mile, and the wind just whips right up, and we start having like white caps rolling. And it was one of the most intense currents we'd been in, where we really just couldn't tell how we were drifting. And we didn't know if we were actually going forward or backwards or sideways. So, and we're dealing with the fears of the shipping lane. So we're a little freaked out. And, to make matters worse, the Coast Guard comes out, and they're circling us in their helicopter, and they're flashing Morse code at us. And we're just like, dude, we have no, we're like, none of us, of course, understand Morse code. And so we're just like, nobody signal anything, because we were worried if we just made any signal, they would think we needed help and start rescue operations. So anyway, we just kind of ignore them. They circle us for 15 minutes trying to get our attention, and we just have our heads down, and we're just charging across the shipping lane. And finally, they left us alone. They were probably just like, well, we're going to leave these guys to their fate. We did our due diligence. And luckily we made it across. But man, that was honestly one of the scariest moments on the entire river. Just being in really rough currents. I mean, because those currents get 5-6 miles an hour, you can't outpace them in a sea kayak. So you at least not for long.
Yeah. That's great. And then the dolphin. It's like, I swear you actually had a hired actor dressed as a dolphin to finish your film.
I know.
We couldn't believe it, man.
That was incredible. That was one of my favorite. It was that was a peak moment on the whole entire river, and then it was followed by far the most scary moment of the shipping lane. And it was just yeah, that kind of 1-2 gave us a really, I think, dramatic ending to the trip.
It's almost like if the dolphin can be there, then you're allowed to be there.
Yeah, exactly. No, it was a special moment. It was a special moment.
That's awesome. Great film. So where is it going to be shown? Are you going on a tour again, like part one, or what?
Yeah, so the two versions are currently available on PBS. You can watch them on our website. If you just go to headwatersdown.com, you can watch the 1-hour public television versions. And those are great. I mean, we highly recommend that folks watch them. They're awesome. We put a lot of time into those. You can watch them on the PBS app. That should be, if you can get on the PBS app, you should be able to stream them pretty much anywhere. And then they are going to be released on YouTube in October, along with the director's cuts released in November. So we have more free ways to watch it coming, but really anyone should be able to watch it right now via the PBS app or our website.
Yeah, it should work. It should work in Canada. So
what are we talking about, eh?
Yeah.
I don't get a good signal in my igloo.
Yeah.
No, that's fantastic. I love the film. Love you guys. What's next?
Justin, you wanna...
So I've got a short film that we worked on called All Forward. That's about whitewater raft guide training here in Richmond. I'm a raft guide here part-time, so we dug into that. That's a short film. And then we just got a grant for our next feature film, which is going to be highlighting the work of the Rappahannock tribe, which is a river just north of Richmond. And Chief Ann, who is the chief of that tribe, has done a lot of work to get their ancestral lands back into conservation. So she's a big part of the indigenous conservation movement here. And so we're going in, and it's not really a paddling film, but we're trying to highlight some other really cool river stories that are happening in Virginia that have history and conservation and some drama all wrapped up. But it's not a paddling film, so it'll be a little different. It'll be maybe that next progression of production. So
Hey, different is good. Keep it up, guys. People need it and want it, so keep it up. Keep the enthusiasm. I know it's not easy, yeah, it's not at all, because I'm guessing you're not rich and famous because of it. So
definitely not.
But really enjoyed the films, both of them. I think actually really like good date night would be to watch part 1, part 2, and then watch part 2 again. So thanks a lot, guys.
Well, thanks so much, Kevin. And you're leading the way with inspiration and energy and keeping the stoke up. So we appreciate everything you do as well.
It's the bourbon.
It helps.
The bourbon.
It helps. Yeah, thanks for giving me an excuse to buy a new bottle. I needed it.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Hey.
For this whiskey chat, a big thanks goes out to my sponsors, my friends, Explorer Magazine, Canadian Outdoor Equipment, Recreational Barrel Works, Adventure Medical Kits, Novacraft Canoe, Badger Paddles, and Algonquin Outfitters. Thanks, everyone.